Hello my beautiful people. So something a little different for you this time. You guys are used to seeing me read the tarot for you. You are used to me talking about numerology. It's time for some astrology. We are stepping into eclipse season, and yes, you will see the whole internet and all of YouTube is awash and abuzz with all of the with all about this stuff. I've got my trusty notes here. The reason I'm doing these solar eclipse specials, and we'll be doing all of the eclipse specials, is because not only is it a different energy, I mean, we've had a little dip into it, but this is where it gets real. This is where it gets, intense, and where it gets serious. And because we're switched from the Leo Aquarius axis, which, trust me, I felt because I am a Leo rising and an Aquarius sun. So I really felt those ones, and actually I can now, looking back on it, really see the benefit of it. At the time it felt like absolute fucking shite, if I'm completely honest with you, because I felt like a ping pong ball in the middle of a storm out at sea. That's just the truth of it. You know, there were moments that were really great that I could see the benefit of, but there were some moments that I was like, do you know what, I don't know how this is going to serve my greater good, but in hindsight, I can see how it worked. So there's a couple of things that I want to talk about before we go into the video itself, right? And I've got, my trusty notes here, because as many of you know, astrology, tarot I can do with my eyes closed, right? In fact, I probably could do it with my eyes closed, even though it's all about the symbols, right? But just from the feeling, I would be able to do that. Whereas astrology is such a bigger and broader subject, and I don't have nearly as many years under my belt in that field as I do with the tarot, with the cards and the symbols there. So I always have notes because I'm just not as practiced. I call myself a baby astrologer. A lot of people say, I think you're being too harsh on yourself, but whatever, it's not about that. So with that said, before we go into your personal, horoscope, eclipse scope, tarot scope, whatever you want to call it, right? Yes, there will be tarot. Come on, that's what I do, right? There's a few things that I want to clarify on. So you see this, I've drawn it out, and yes, it looks pretty, and it looks mysterious, and it's got the symbols on the wheel and all the rest of it, and we're all familiar with what a chart looks like. Well, 90% of people nowadays are familiar with what a chart looks like. The problem that this chart creates is that people tend to see this kind of thing, especially a big event like an eclipse, as just a flash in the pan. They kind of see it like a static moment. And while it is true that the specific moment of the eclipse will imprint your life with a specific type of energy, right? And that's really important to remember. So when you read somebody's birth chart, when you look at somebody's personal astrology, when you see a personal one of these for somebody, what you're actually looking at is a specific moment in time that is imprinted into their DNA, right? There's, all of the stars aligned in a certain way to give you a certain energy that was going to unfold. Astrology breathes, it moves. Human beings are not, we're multifaceted. We move, we breathe, we grow, we change, we evolve. Just like the moon, we are cyclic. We go through great, awesome periods, and we go through low, sort of not so awesome periods. And that's one of the things that you really need to understand. This isn't just an event that will happen on this day and then you can forget about it. It's kind of like a toolbox. Imagine it's like a gift that the universe gives you on a specific day and says, right, here you go, I'm going to give you this, and you get to unpack that over the next 3 to 6 months. It's never just a flash in the pan moment, and this is why people talk about the eclipses so much, and why people often say, well, this will happen, over the next 3 to 6 months, and sometimes even further beyond. Like I said, I can see a lot of the stuff that I'm doing and living and experiencing now in relation to the eclipses that we finished up in Aquarius and Leo. So it's really relevant stuff, but you need to understand it's a process, not an event, right? It's an unfolding of energy that is imprinted into you on the specific day. So pay attention to that day, because it may well have elements of what this energy is going to be like for you over the next 6 months, what it might unfold, how it might grow. But don't let this video, don't let me, don't let anybody ever reduce you or your infinite beingness down to just a specific set of events that are all about your second house is your money. Yes, it does represent that, and it's good to know that. And it's great to see, if we can predict these things accurately, which is wonderful. But don't let anything, any system in the world, astrology, tarot, numerology, don't let me, any other reader, whether tarot reader, astrologer, whatever, don't let anyone or anything reduce you down to those separate sort of compartments. You are a multifaceted being. And it is good for you to, so there's the dualism, bad Rafi. And you are a multifaceted being, and it's important that you allow yourself to be all of that and to grow throughout these processes that take place, right? Don't ever limit yourself to anything that anyone tells you. You always get a chance to choose. Now, before I go off on a complete tangent, I will give you some overviews. So, solar eclipse is an initiatory energy. It's a beginning of some sort, because it's kind of like a supercharged or jacked up new moon that's like, yeah! It's got lots of energy behind it. And when you get a new moon, you've got the sun and the moon together, right? That in itself is the god and the goddess coming together in creation. Now, this one is taking place in Cancer, which is really important for loads of reasons. So the whole axis of Cancer and Capricorn are going to be lit up. Cancer represents the mother, in the fourth house, protection, love, nurturing, nourishment, that place that you go to seek shelter, to seek comfort, or even lock yourself away from the harsh realities of the outside world. It's your feelings, it's your attachments, it's your bonds, right? Whereas Capricorn, and the Cancer is the natural house of the moon as well, so it's really worth keeping an eye on that. And it represents the mother, because it comes in the guise of the fourth house. Whereas Capricorn, where we've got quite a lot going on in the opposite sign, and this is where the eclipses are going to bounce between, right, is the 10th house. This is the external structure, the things out in the world, but it's also the father. It's where we meet authority, it's where we meet governance, it's where we meet the things that we appear to not be able to change. It's where, the 10th house is your career, how you show up out in the world, how you are presented or received by the wider world. So these are really big things to look at, right? And because it's the father, it's the line in the sand that you meet, where you will go no further, where you meet authority, where you get that kind of, no, you will not pass, you cannot do this. And it's not always about the negative stuff. Sometimes it's to hold you back from something or to teach you a lesson, right? So when you see that mother-father axis, that's kind of what's going on there. So it's really important to pay attention to that stuff. What I've talked about, it's a process. Good to look at where this is happening. Right, so try and stay with me on this, and I'm using myself as an example so that you can do this for yourself, right? So look at where the eclipse is taking place, and then think about where that happens according to your sun, moon, and ascendant. So my moon sign, I'll start there, is in Cancer. So this suggests that my inner world, possibly even my home, may change over the next 3 to 6 months. Something about my emotional inner world, or even my home, my dwelling, may very well change because it's happened, or the identity of my home, or something of that nature may very well change, right? As a Leo ascendant, this is happening in my 12th house. My 12th house is all to do with the past, the things that are hidden, that are private, subconscious drives and not necessarily desires and urges, but it can also be hidden enemies. It could be people that don't necessarily, present themselves as one thing, but don't necessarily mean you good. Then finally, as an Aquarius, this is happening in my 6th house, which is all to do with my work. So something to do with my old work, my old workplace, my old work life could be coming through. So those are my big three, sun, moon, and ascendant, right? It's good for you to find out where they are, because it's going to give you that kind of different dynamic of understanding, so that you get an idea of where this is happening, why, not why it's happening, you know why, because of the astrology, how it's likely to unfold, and what that could possibly mean for you. So one of the things that I've put here is it could suggest that things are about to take a big leap forward over the 6 months because of services rendered, right? So the 12th house is the past, and the 6th house is work. So it could be some efforts that I've already sown in my own personal past over the last 6 months may now start to yield results or dividends or rewards, you know, depending on what I've put out there. And I'm currently crossing fingers, toes and bits at the moment, like thinking back like, shit, have I done enough? Hopefully I have. You know, I've done my best to be of complete service to you guys in and of the world. So with that said, let's get to the personal astrology for each sign. Take care. See you in a moment. Hi Libra, welcome to your solar eclipse special with me, Raphael from Reydiant Reality. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here. So with that said, let's go straight into it. This eclipse for you is taking place in your 10th house, which suggests that your career, your public image, how you are seen, how you show up in the world is all about to go through a massive change. So the thing is with the eclipses, as you've seen in the blurb before, it unpacks over 3 to 6 months, and it could see you really reaching for some kind of title, some sort of acclaim. It could see you going for a promotion. It could see you really trying to establish yourself on the wider world stage in a way that you choose to be viewed. It's also the start of making decisions about who you present yourself to be. And if you don't like who you are or how you are viewed over the course of the next 6 months, you will have a chance to change and evolve that, which is awesome, right? Because it suggests that you have, you've got a say in this. You can utilize this energy in that sort of way. Now, the eclipse is happening in Cancer, which suggests that you will need to nourish, nurture and feed your career in some way. So it's not just going to happen for you on its own. It does suggest that there's something about you that is putting the effort in to make this happen, that's saying to yourself, right, you know what, I want to get serious about how I'm viewed. I want to get serious about my work. I want to get serious about some aspect of my public life, you know, of how people view me. And it does suggest if you put that nurture and nourishment in, you will grow in that way. So then way across the board, you have Saturn and the South Node conjunct in the 4th house. Now, this is one of the heavier aspects to have in the 4th house because it can represent, I'm sorry to say, the loss of a loved one. And the reason being is Saturn does sometimes represent death or elimination. Not elimination, but it does represent death. Then the South Node is releasing, it's letting go of something. So on the heaviest side of it, it may well be that an elderly or a sick family member is, you know, crossing over to meet the next evolution of their own life. On the ground, this could very well see, because it's an opposition, right? It could very well see your home life requiring more attention. It could be because you have a sick family member and you're being asked to care for them more. But on a personal note, you're reaching out to better your career, and it's like, how do I balance these two things that are asking for my time, that need my time, my care and my attention? The South Node does suggest that you're releasing some old pattern of your heritage. So something from your familial past, from your personal heritage or your personal lineage. It could be a belief system, it could be a structure, it could be a family home is changing, is evolving. Maybe you're doing works on a home and that's taking more of your time and effort, and so therefore your career is saying, well, look, you know, if you want this, you're going to have to give me a bit more time and nourishment as well. So you see this kind of seesaw aspect going on between the two axis points there. This could see the family or home front dusting up with your career as they both vie for your attention. Could see you looking at your schedule of, not your schedule, but it could see you looking at your personal and familial commitments, which is, you know, is really true. Then you've got Jupiter in Sagittarius, which is in your third house, sorry. Then you've got Neptune in Pisces, which is in your 6th house. So your third house is about how you communicate, how people receive you, you know, the things that you're saying, the way that you're communicating, writing, speaking, interacting with people. It can also be your daily commute, and it can also be siblings. So, and the fact that you've got a square taking place between these two, the thing with a square is it makes you uncomfortable enough to make a conscious change. It basically says to you, look, you know what? I'm going to give you this energy, and if you don't like it, you're going to have to put the effort in to make that change, to make the difference. So really it's the squares that actually build us up, the squares and the oppositions, right? Because they make us uncomfortable enough to say, fuck this, I want a different experience. So you make that happen. So yeah, with the 3rd and the 6th, this could see you, your siblings, or, you know, wider family saying, look, we need help caring for Nana, we need help caring for old Aunt Sue, or, you know, I'm just giving examples. The other thing is as well, this could be you reaching out to people, because your 6th house is your work, right? It's what you do, it's your service to others. The 3rd house is communication, so you could be communicating to your family, you could be communicating to people that are closer, or even work colleagues, and saying to them, look, you know what, I need some assistance here, or I need a break, or how can we figure out a way for me to get forward or get ahead in my career and the way that I'm seen, that I can balance out with all of my other commitments. It could be something going on with your neighbours as well. You could be assisting neighbours or people in your local community in some way, shape or form. It could see you having some issues with siblings. That's definitely a possibility. And it could be that neighbours or wider family relatives are asking for your assistance in some way, shape or form. Definitely worth looking at. Then finally you've got the Uranus, which is in Taurus, and then you've got the eclipse point. So that's a sextile between your 8th house and your 10th house. And this could see some kind of inheritance, because your 8th house is all the taboo stuff, taxes, death, sex. It's also psychology, like the deep aspects of your mind. It can be hidden things, but it can also be inheritance. Money, it's other people's money, right? It's how that other people's money makes its way to us. And because of some of the aspects that you've got here, it's very likely, you know, touch wood, that this is doesn't happen on a mass scale, and I'm sorry if this does touch your life, but it could see you gaining an inheritance due to losing a family member. It could be sudden and unexpected. It's a sextile, so it is a slightly more harmonious tale, but it does suggest that something to do with your mental health and your outlook on things will also be shifting. And it might be that you know, it could be that in your career you say to yourself, actually, you know what, I'm going to reevaluate my career in regards to something that I've been going through. You know, how you're looking through the guise of, do I look after myself enough in my mental health? Do I take enough time to really acknowledge how I feel and how that has an effect or an impact? How is my career impacting on my personal psychology? How is it making me think? How is it actually making me feel at the depths or the roots of who I am? It could also be that you're feeling that a lot more, and finding ways to cope with being pulled in some very, very different directions. And it looks like this is a really bitty one for you guys. You know, it's going to have lots of different moments and stuff. But over the next 3 to 6 months, you will have a say in how you are perceived and how you are seen. So your card for this is Temperance. Take your time to allow yourself to go through the process of evolving. Take your time to allow yourself to go through the process of purifying your mind, really get into the depths of what you actually want, and also taking time to really acknowledge what your family have left you with. What are their legacies? What is your heritage? What does that actually mean to you? And ultimately, how can it build you up to take with you out into your future as you decide who you want to be now? I wish you an abundance of all of that good stuff. Let me know if it's not too personal or painful in the comments. I really do wish you the best, and I hope that I am, you know, that this doesn't touch any of you and I'm totally wrong, and you can all come back and say, ha, fuck you, Raph, you were totally wrong. But, you know, with the transits that are coming up and some of the symbols of what is there, it looks like this may be a likelihood, so just keep that in mind. If not, could be an ending that comes to, you know, in your home of some sort. It could be that the place that you're living no longer is the place that you will end up staying. Take care, I'll see you soon.